Hi there, my name is Matt Crowley, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Digital at More Visibility. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about findings from a recently released paper on ChatGPT usage by OpenAI. And there were some really interesting findings, as this is really the largest and most accurate data that we have to date on how people are actually using ChatGPT. So I'm going to share my screen and talk you through some of the really interesting findings that we had. So this paper that was recently published was a combined effort between the National Bureau of Economic Research alongside OpenAI's economic research team and Harvard economist David Deming. And this pulls together data on over 1.5 million conversations from ChatGPT. And this includes both work and non-work related activity. And so this being A, from OpenAI, B, from really reputable economic researchers at the National Bureau of Economic Research and Harvard economist David Deming, provides the deepest insight into how people are actually using ChatGPT to date. And there's a lot of really interesting findings, a few really broad ones, and then we're actually going to jump into the paper and look at some of the charts and graphs that they share on usage. But a few really interesting ones, high level. Number one, ChatGPT has become a really broadly accessible global tool. As of May 2025, the adoption has actually been the highest in lowest income countries, where the growth rates were over 4 times that of the highest income countries. So ChatGPT is really turning out to be a tool that is used really broadly globally, and one that is used by a really diverse array of different users, and in particular, a really democratized tool being used by some of the lowest income countries. There's a lot of great data that we're going to dig into in terms of how they, in the paper, classified their findings. But one that was really interesting is that they grouped everything, generally speaking, by 3 categories: asking, doing, and expressing. Asking was the largest category that comprised 49% of all messages. And that asking category represents people who are actually seeking information from ChatGPT. The doing category was the second largest, that represented about 40% of all messages, and included in that was about 1/3 of the use of the for work types of activities. And that's more task-oriented activities, things like asking ChatGPT to produce writing, produce code, or produce something. And then the last category is expressing, that only was made up of about 11% of usage. And that's basically everything that didn't fit into the asking or doing categories. So general conversation, personal reflection, things like that. So there was a lot of really interesting trends, but the last one, broadly speaking, before we jump into the paper, is that about 30% of the usage is work related and 70% is non-work related. So right now, most of the usage is non-work related, and that's actually been increasing. That number has increased from earlier on in the study from about 53% to 70%. So non-work related usage is growing faster than work-related usage in terms of the share. But obviously all ChatGPT usage is growing overall in general. But the largest increases are coming from non-work related usage. And we'll see that when we dig into the paper. So there's a few different charts and graphs that are actually pretty interesting. The first one here breaks out work and non-work related activity by those categories of asking, expressing, and doing. And so here we can see that asking, the far left-hand bar, makes up 48.9% of all activity, and 36% of that is non-work related. So the largest bulk of area of activity in ChatGPT is non-work related activity by people seeking information. The second largest category is people asking ChatGPT to do something, which we'll see in a minute is predominantly asking ChatGPT to write something. and 20% of that is non-work and 19% is work. So a pretty even split on the doing category of work and non-work related activity. And then in the middle here, we have the expressing category, which is everything that doesn't fit into asking or doing. And that's only 11% of all usage, where 8% is non-work and 3% is work related. So as we look at these buckets, predominantly the biggest use is non-work related activity by people seeking information, followed by a blend of work and non-work related activity of people asking ChatGPT to do something. And we'll see specifically the types of activities that they're looking at. If we scroll up here, what we'll see first is a breakdown of the actual types of things that people are using ChatGPT for in work-related messages. So this is all just work-related data. And you can see in pink, this is the largest category. If we look at the date number on the very bottom, 41.8% of work-related activity is writing. And of that 41%, 34% of that is people asking ChatGPT to do something. So that's most of the work related activity in ChatGPT is asking ChatGPT to write something on the person's behalf. And then the second largest category is practical guidance. That's the green category here, 24%. So you see a really big drop off from basically 42% of people in a work-related setting asking ChatGPT to write something, down to 24% asking ChatGPT for something related to practical guidance, and most of that is asking. You see 14.8%. So the next largest category is people who are seeking information on guidance in a work-related context from ChatGPT, and then almost 8% of that is asking ChatGPT to actually produce something that's related to practical guidance, maybe a guide of some sort or something like that they would use, or a framework. And then that drops off again down to around 12%, which is seeking information, with most people asking for insider information. And that's a bucket that you could think about probably from like a B2B standpoint, and especially as we think about marketing, people asking ChatGPT for information on something in a work-related context. Could be something related to software as a service or a vendor or something like that. And so it's interesting that the work-related usage is much lower than non-work. B, most of the work-related usage is doing for writing. And C, the kind of the lower end bucket is people actually seeking information in a work-related context and asking for information. Then as we go up, we see the actual breakdown of all conversations and topics. And here we can see that there's a pretty even blend when you bring in all of the non-work related activity of writing, which is in pink at 28%, practical guidance in green at 28%, and then a little bit of a drop off of seeking information at 21%. And so here you can see like a pretty interesting blend of people who are asking for information under the seeking information, asking for practical guidance, and then specifically requesting ChatGPT to write something for them. Those are the three largest buckets here: the doing of writing, the asking of practical guidance, and the asking of seeking information. And so ChatGPT really has a lot of different usages, as we all know, but the predominant biggest buckets of usage that we're seeing are non-work related activities for people seeking information. If we think about that from a marketing context, certainly that's going to lend itself a little bit more to the B2C type audience who might be seeking information, as well as people who are looking for practical guidance on things. And so there's a lot of really interesting takeaways there that are hopefully helpful, but it's clear that search and discovery are changing quite rapidly. Users are asking generative AI for a lot of advice, aside from the fact that they're asking quite a bit for ChatGPT to help them with their writing. They're looking for information, guidance, and seeking, a lot of educational type information. And so as we think about that as marketers, especially in the B2C type space, and how we can help influence that audience, and how do we have our content show up in these types of results, it's really important to think about how we're structuring content, the types of topics that we're focused on, and how we can help users make a decision, and how we can help create content that actually aids in that decision-making process. So content that helps users evaluate, compare, decide. That type of content is going to align mostly with the current types of usage that we're seeing in generative AI. And so we want to structure content to guide decisions, and not just inform at the broadest levels or educate at the broadest levels. We want to think about how we can structure content to actually guide in those decisions. And then we also want to be very well aware that adoption is broadening, and these generative AI platforms really are supporting a lot of hyper personalization and hyper localization. And so we really want to think about how we are addressing emerging markets, underrepresented groups. So there's a lot of value in localization, inclusive language, and multi-regional strategies, especially given the findings of where the largest growth rates are coming from the study. So hopefully this was helpful to gain a little bit of insight into the largest study that has really been produced, including the most accurate information on ChatGPT usage to date. And hopefully there are some interesting takeaways for you there. I hope you have a great rest of your day.